To say something. You like jazz?
Today, what we're building is a, what I'm calling a New Orleans jazz club. And I don't know why I decided to do it in sort of a Louisiana, like old, sort of French-inspired New Orleans style, but I did, and so here it is. And yeah, so we started with, this is for, by the way, for Lil Simsy's most recent shell challenge, and she should be looking at these on Monday. Today it is Saturday night, so we'll see how this one ends up, but I think it looks pretty good. That's just my personal opinion. I built it. I don't know, but yeah, so we just started with the shell, and the thing about the shell is that it's like mostly diagonal walls, and so I decided just to shove it in the back corner of the lot. I just figured that it made the most sense there. Like, we're gonna embrace the diagonalness instead of trying to fight the diagonalness. And I'll go ahead and say that there's a huge chunk of this speed build missing because OBS, which is a screen recording software that most people who record video game playing, they use it, and I didn't know that you're not supposed to record them as MOV files because it crashes and you can't get them back, and so I did. So there's a huge chunk of it missing, but when we get to that part and you see it go from shell to near finished build, I'll explain to you exactly what I did. We're not there yet. Right now what we're doing is, so because this is sort of like New Orleans style, you've got huge balconies. I went there one time, and what I noticed is just balconies. Everyone's got a balcony because you want to be able to like hang out with people and like yell down from the balcony and stand there and drink your drinks, your juice, whatever you're drinking on the balcony, and just hang out while the weather's good. And so that is what we're doing. And I wanted to do a lot of like cool like curved roofs and a lot of interesting things, but roofing this particular build was not easy because of the weird little jutting diagonal bits and bobs. And then here is just Fighting with Stairs is the name of this video. I might actually name it Fighting with Stairs because this whole thing was just a big stair fight. I do not appreciate how many diagonal lines there were in here, but we made it work. And so as you can see, I ended up doing sort of like a double entryway type situation. This build for the most part is inspired by some concept art that I saw for The Princess and the Frog, and I think it wasn't buildings that actually ended up being in the movie, but it was just some concept art that I found online. And so that was like the majority of my inspiration for this, is sort of like the French manor looking aesthetic. And so that's why there's so much detail, like with the friezes and the ironwork on the stairs. And I wanted the outside to be very bright and white and welcoming, and then the inside is going to be really dark and moody. But we're not there yet. Right now what we're doing, as we'll be doing throughout this whole video, is fighting with lights, because I really wanted to do a ton of string lights. As you can see, I like string lights. String lights are cool. They add like a really nice mood and aesthetic, and it makes everything look really nice at night, which is what I wanted out of this build. But fighting with like making the string lights smaller and then to fit perfectly in the middle of all of the pillars and banisters, it was just a nightmare. So as the video goes on, I'll be throwing a lot of string lights everywhere throughout the entire build, and rarely do they actually fit, but there was a point where I was like, no one's gonna know, no one's gonna see, no one's gonna care. And I think that that's really important when you're building in The Sims, is just throw as much stuff as you can in there. Just do whatever you can and whatever you want. Oh, right there. Yeah, so that's where we jumped forward in time really far because I lost a lot of the video. So let me just explain why I added. So to the right, that we're working on right now, is a pond. If you want to see how I do ponds and little, you know, like water features, it's just the fountain. You build it and then you surround it with rocks that are sort of sized out, sized down, and twisted and scattered around so that it looks a little bit more natural. rocks, and then just random plants. So if you go through debug, like all of the debug items, you can find some great sort of water plants in there. Because the Sims team, they make their own sort of water features, and then they hide all of the bits and bobs in debug. So you just go in there and find them. Also what we did is we skinned the outside of the building with a sort of like an old plank looking wallpaper, which I thought worked really well because a lot of the things in New Orleans are very old. I'd say the whole city is extremely old and weathered, and it's so wet there that things tend to rot in this really kind of beautiful old patina looking kind of way. And so we did that. For the windows and doors, I tried to stick to like nice black iron to add some detail and contrast with the whiteness of everything outside. And then, so right here to the right, and now to the left, and now to the right, you can see a black gazebo that I added, just because I needed something there. And there are a lot of gazebos in the New Orleans area, so I found one online that I really liked, and I just put the fountain from Romantic Garden right in the middle there because I thought it was cute. I don't know, and also just. Yeah, so putting the lights around and those little hanging plants that you see on the porch, those are in debug and they're perfect. I wish that I feel like there's at least one hanging plant in the game, but these little ones from the debug items are so perfect for just, if you have a wide open space outside and you just need something. I ended up putting a ton of them inside too, because if you have a space and you just need to put something there because you feel like it's too empty, throw in a hanging plant. So upstairs on this second balcony, downstairs on the balconies, I decided to do a bar sort of seating, talking area. Even though it's a jazz club, I figured if you brought a date, you'd want to go outside and like have some juice and maybe some appetizers or something. And then on the second floor, there's a dance floor and then a bandstand. But I don't know. I mean, there's another bandstand on the inside, like with a stage and everything. So I don't really know why you would go upstairs, but maybe it's like band, like backup band. I don't know. Also, this is a jazz club. If any of you watching this video actually like jazz, there are hardly any jazz instruments in The Sims, so I understand that a jazz band is not made up of 2 guitars and a piano. I get it. I know. Okay, I don't like jazz, but I know that. Like, everyone knows that. It's saxophones and things. But as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't have saxophones and things in the game, so I didn't put them there. So this outside area right here, I decided to pave the majority of it so that we had a nice open space, so that the rest of the landscaping around the building could be landscaped. And then I added cute little cars and a valet stand. I think that podium is actually for it's like a presidential podium or like a debate podium or something, but I decided to use it as a valet stand. So that's where you go and turn in your car if you happen to have one, and then you can go inside and have some fun. And then that chandelier in the middle of the sort of balcony area, I remember that being exceptionally hard to place. So if you have any questions about how to do something like that, don't ask me because it took me a really long time. So this is the section where we fight the stairs, and I sped it up to like 1,800 times. Like most of this video is 900 times sped up, but I doubled that and did it 1,800 times because I didn't want you people to have to sit there and watch me fiddle with these stairs. So I like doubled it up as a montage because, oh my god, I cannot believe how horrible these stairs were. I couldn't figure out where they needed to go because they just couldn't fit inside. There was just no space. Especially considering what I was planning on doing. I was planning on building like I really wanted to put like a restaurant in here with like a kitchen and everything, but I really couldn't fit it. I could barely fit what I ended up putting on the inside. So finally I figured out that I could build yet another porch. It's like porch 3 and 4. Because you've got 2 in the front, up and down. There's a million porches on this poor building, but it made sense to me. So we will continue fighting with these stairs. And yeah, so what I ended up doing is just putting them straight right there and then creating 2 more sort of lounge spaces. And then also in a minute, I don't know, if you guys have ever experienced this. But I'll point it out when this happens. Right there. Right there is when it happens. On the upper floor, there's a rectangular hole where there used to be some stairs. A while ago, when I was fighting with the stairs, there were stairs there. And I have since deleted the stairs. And the hole is still there. So here, you see me trying to rebuild a box to maybe trick the game into thinking, oh, it's a whole room, I should fill in the floor. But no, it never filled itself in. That little 3 square rectangular box just wouldn't go away. And so what I had to do was restart the game. I had to close the whole game and then restart it because it wouldn't go away. And that's happened to me before. I can't think of any specific time, but that it's happened to me before where there's just a hole in the game, or like I can't click on something, or something won't move, and you just have to close the game and then come back. That's my pro tip for people who build like really intricate things where your computer starts to get overloaded, I think. I'm not really sure why it happens, but just close the game, come back. It usually fixes itself. Don't know what I was talking about before then, but yeah, we've just got another porch. A million porches. And then there are a lot of stairs just randomly strewn around this whole build because I would build them and then forget they were there. So, yeah. And then the glass roof up there, I end up trying to extend it so that it comes all the way out because it seemed kind of weird just to have a weird extension like that. But I ended up having to move the whole, I don't know, you'll see it in a second. It was really annoying. But yeah, so for the most part, my references for this were The Princess and the Frog, and then just some like French architecture that I've seen because New Orleans is very French. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's very French. They have this place called the French Quarter because it's just that French. And so, I don't know, that was just my inspiration. Oh, another thing that is very hard to do when the whole build is diagonal is to place any sort of square anything. I'm mostly talking about columns. I could not use any of the columns that I wanted. There's so many cute columns that are like ornate and sculpted in The Sims, and I couldn't use them because when your room is diagonal and your column is not, it ends up being diagonal. Your column is diagonal and you can't rotate them. And I think I've even used the tool mod to try and rotate columns, but it's not really, it's like a structural element. It's not like an object, so the game doesn't want you to be able to rotate it. I don't know why. I don't know. That tree over to the right behind this stairs mess that I worked on for a very long time, it's in debug. If I ever rotate the camera down, which I don't think I ever will back here, you'll see that it's got these like hanging wispies on it, which I thought looked like Spanish moss, which is a really big like detail in the Louisiana area is Spanish moss. There's a lot of it. I will, you know what, in the comment, or not in the comment box, down below, I will link to you the art that I referenced this based on, and you'll see how important Spanish moss was to the whole look of it. It kind of makes the city of New Orleans look kind of ghostly and eerie, because you just have these sort of vague, like mossy growths just swaying under the trees. I don't know. I thought it was cool. And it was not hard to pick the flooring for this build, because there's only one flooring that, when put in a diagonal room, ends up being straight, and it's the diagonal vampire floor. So there's really only one that I could use, just one. And then here we're building the stage by sizing up some random planks from debug, and the grain of the wood being that big and swoopy was very weird, but I knew we'd just cover it up anyway. So at first I decided to do like a purple and green theme because those are the Mardi Gras colors, and then I decided that was a little too on the nose. I will put some purple and green spotlights out front. And the reason that I just went into live mode just then is because if you ever use the tool mod, it can only be used in live mode. You can't use it in build mode. And that drove me insane for so long, is that I wanted to use the tool mod, but I couldn't get it to work because no one told me that it only works in live mode. So what you do is you go into live mode and then you shift click on your object and then you click tool mod, and it allows you to rotate objects on whatever axis you want. If you go to my last video posted, I think it's my last video, or it might be 2 videos ago. Either way, it's the medieval build that I did. I used the tool mod a lot, mostly for a water wheel that I built. I just took a circular coffee table and then turned it like that, which normally you can't do in the game because when you rotate it, it just goes like this, but it goes like that when you use the tool mod. Then you size it up, and then you can also use the mod to elevate things. So you can make something go much higher than it normally would, or you can just elevate it just a teeny bit, which pressing 9? Yeah, pressing 9 normally wouldn't let you do. So the tool mod is awesome, highly recommend. Once again, I apologize to anyone who knows anything about jazz for my instrument selection, because I don't know if they use violins in jazz, but I did, so I didn't have much choice. There are some packs that I don't have, so if there's randomly a saxophone in like the spa day pack, then I wouldn't know because I don't have that one, so sorry. And then, so what we're doing here is I rotated a piece of art, or like a plaque, and then put it on the stage because I wanted to put carpets on the stage. But you can't raise carpets off the ground. Like, hit 9 as many times as you want, but a carpet is actually just a texture that's sort of being printed on the ground. So it's not really an object with any sort of thickness. So you can't raise it. You just can't. And so whenever that happens, what I have to do is try and figure out some alternate object that could be a carpet. So for that, I just used a plaque that I flipped upside down. Interestingly, if you flip most of the artwork around using the tool mod, the Sims team actually 3D modeled the artwork to have like the hanging strings on the back, and you can actually see like the little staples of the frame and stuff. It's really cute. It's sort of overboard with detail, but considering that 99.999% of the players would never see it, I appreciate it. Although it kind of ruins what I was trying to do with using the back of a piece of artwork as a carpet, because it would look weird. But yeah, so these are the spotlight. I've never used these spotlights before because usually they're a little too much, but the theme of this whole thing was kind of like overabundance and just trying to make it look as fun as possible. And these things are fun. The spotlights are fun. Super fun. I put them as many places as I could because I thought they were very cute. And then that little, I don't know which pack all of these jazz things came in, because I just never noticed, but that giant neon sign with the saxophone on it was so perfect for this build, because obviously, like, jazz club with a big arrow that says come in here, this is a jazz club, like, I don't know which pack required that much jazz, but there's so much. I never realized that like a quarter of the artwork in the Sims catalog is jazz. And I know that in like Get Together you were able to make like clubs and dance places, but jazz, like, I don't know. I like it. I mean, it really helped me for this build because I didn't know that I was gonna have to stretch it a little further and just sort of imply that this was a jazz club, but no, I just put jazz artwork and then a giant neon sign with a saxophone on it and an arrow. So, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's getting towards the end now. Not really, but I'm recognizing the fact that that the video, that when it skipped so much of the building process. But I mean, when I'm planning out these builds, I like to build in The Sims as detailed as possible. I like, to go for realism and just complete detail. Like, there's something to look at everywhere you look. Like, I'm actually not that good at building modern things in The Sims because I just need to clutter it. Like, it's just a need that I have. So when I'm planning these things out, I don't really plan anything, and that's kind of why I like shell challenges. I really like shell challenges because you don't have to make decisions as far as the look of your building. I mean, you do, but it's there for you, and it's simultaneously a limitation and also freedom, because you don't have to make choices. You're just like, okay, this is what I've been given, so let's work with that, instead of being like, well, I could do literally anything in the whole world, because the Sims build mode is such a powerful building tool. It's basically like 3D modeling without actually having to model anything. And so you can do literally anything. As you can see, like I've been going through the gallery looking at all of the builds that are sort of competing against this one, and there's some amazing things in the gallery. And so I'm a bit nervous. I really hope that mine gets picked, but there's some really, really, really cool things that people have decided to do with this exact same shell. Like, we all had the same shell that actually started out really small. This is a very small shell. It theoretically, I feel like if I just made it like some sort of suburban, it would have been 2-bedroom, maybe. I could have crammed three bedrooms maximum into it, but with the addition of 14 porches or whatever and a giant outdoor space, we ended up making it this really big entertainment space. Also, if you guys go download this on the gallery, which you totally should, on the gallery I'm also Eliza Build Stuff, so you can go download it there. It is labeled as residential because I couldn't figure out, because the original shell was residential. So I downloaded it into the library, placed it onto this lot, and it's still residential. And I'm not sure how to change it from residential because it still thinks that it's Lil Cincy's build. So if you guys know how to do that, then please let me know in the comments. Please let me know how to turn this into like an actual sort of public venue, because I would love to put it, I'm thinking of starting a save really soon with a ton of like really, really detailed builds instead of just the little automatic things that come with the game. So I'd love to be able to put this in my save as an actual public space for Sims to come to, but I can't figure it out because it still says that it's residential, so I don't know. But if you guys know, let me know. I also haven't Googled it, so it could be a simple Google situation. I don't know. But yeah, so I started struggling a little bit when it came to these back porches, because I was like, we've done everything else. We've done the music space. We have 2 bandstands, 2 dance floors. We have a dining area, and then we have that little loungy space upstairs. So I was like, what could this even be? This space. And then we got another space up the stairs. This also was space that I wasn't intending to be in the build in the first place. It's just where the stairs ended up having to go. So I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I ended up putting a foosball table and a dartboard. And I was like, okay, if maybe there are couples that are doing a double date and the women are like, we want to dance, and the men are like, I don't want to dance, then the men can just come out back, listen to music, play foosball, play darts, and just let the women go inside and listen to jazz. I don't know. I bet there's tons of people all over the place that get dragged to jazz clubs, even though they hate jazz. I've only seen one jazz band play, and it just so happened to be Jeff Goldblum's jazz band. And so we went there and everyone sat down. It was this teeny, teeny, tiny little venue in Los Angeles, and everyone sat down, and beforehand, Jeff Goldblum went around to every single person that came to his show and personally shook their hands and talked to them, and it was so cute. And he didn't get to my table until like 5 seconds before he actually had to go on stage. So basically he came over and he was like, hey, thanks for coming. And I was like, oh my god, I love you. And then he had to leave. So it was really awkward, but really fun. And his jazz band was really, really good. And every so often between songs, he would sort of stop and like work the room and do like basically stand-up comedy. So it made, I mean, no offense, but it made the jazz tolerable, although the band was really, really good. Like, I didn't know that scatting was actually a fun and cool thing to listen to until I saw his band play, and I was like, oh, that's what that's supposed to sound like. Got it. Because until then, It's just something to make fun of, I guess. But here's more of those plants I was talking about. When in doubt, put those plants down. As a little detail, I decided to put some like water stains and cracks on the walls because, like I said earlier, everything in New Orleans is old. Just so old. And so what are we doing now? There is a point in every single build where I just go to show all, and then I just scroll through all of the items, every single item in the catalog, just to clutter things up and make sure that I'm not missing anything. And so that's how I ended up finding a lot of this jazz artwork that I'd never seen before, is by just going through all the artwork and scrolling and being like, why is there so much jazz artwork? And then same for debug. If you want to finish off those tiny little details of your build, you just type bb.show hidden objects, bb.show live edit objects, type debug into the search bar, and then click on any of the results because it'll take you to the same place. And then you just scroll. And you scroll. And then you scroll until you find all these tiny little things that you didn't know existed. And then you finish your build. Yeah. So this bathroom is something that I completely forgot to put in. Completely. Until really, really close to the end of the build. And then I was like, oh, we need a bathroom. And there's almost literally only one space that it could go into, and that's this space right here. So I'm really glad that I remembered. And also another thing, because this is labeled as residential, when you download it from the gallery, which I encourage you to do and see all the little details and then add your own, I don't know, mess this build up if you want to, it doesn't matter to me. There will be a mailbox randomly placed in front of the front door, because when a build is labeled as residential, it needs to have a mailbox, and so the game will just randomly generate a mailbox anywhere it wants to, just to remind you to have a mailbox, because the game needs to give you bills. You have to pay your bills. Also, first and only time that I have ever used that music carpet, I was very happy to be able to use it. Never have used it before, probably never will use it again, because where else is it appropriate? And also this space up here, I just put in some seating because I had no idea what it was supposed to be. I just knew that it needed something because the stairs just had to be there. And then we're fiddling with lights. I remember, it's funny, when I watch back these build videos, I can remember what I was watching or listening to or thinking about while I was building it. And while I was building this particular porch, I was watching Tiger King. Probably like the rest of the country right now, I was watching Tiger King. And so this is just giving me a lot of weird feelings watching this over again, because that's a very weird documentary that I don't recommend unless you're over the age of, I don't know who that documentary is appropriate for. Not everybody, that's for sure. And I'm not willing to make the call to say who can watch it and who can't. Anyway, this is some last second little landscaping, and then you always got to do that terrain paint, because if you forget the terrain paint, everything just looks really too crisp, you know? It needs to look a little bit worn, you have to like incorporate your choices into the land, make it feel purposeful. This is also the first build where I haven't actually used terrain tools. Like, I didn't manipulate the terrain at all. It's pretty flat. So that saved me a lot of time, because I'm not good at terrain tools. I'm very confused by terrain tools. It's not my speciality, and so I just didn't do it this time. Just didn't feel like it. Didn't do it. Yeah. I was still watching Tiger King while I was doing this. Wow. Weird flashbacks. But yeah, I'm just going around making sure everything's done. Everything's good to me. Once again, I'm really sorry about that huge chunk of footage that's missing. I was very annoyed when I realized that my file was corrupted, because I was like, oh, that was like 4 hours of work. Because a build like this usually takes me somewhere, like, I can do it in 2 days, but it'll take anywhere between like 8 and 12 hours to finish. This one probably took around like maybe 8 hours. Yeah. So it was probably a good 4 hours of work that went missing towards the middle of that video. But I mean, what do you gotta know? We just added columns and friezes and little architectural details. And but if you download the build, then you can just go through and see everything. I really hope you guys play with this build because I think it's really fun. I have not. Ooh, good point. I've not play tested it. I don't know if any of it works. It might be too cluttered. No, like I don't know if anyone can walk through it. While I was taking screenshots, I did have the family whose house I bulldozed to build this. I had them sort of run through it a little bit, and they seemed to be able to get around okay and use the bathroom and get around the tables and stuff. So I think for the most part it's usable. It's not usable as a residential lot though, because there are no beds, there's no kitchen, there's nothing. But yeah, I really hope you guys play in it, and here's some screenshots to look at, and I hope you guys have a great day.